Okay, so we can all agree upon the fact that the green wall is incredibly stupid, right? So we want to get rid of that. But what do we do with it? One of the other wall types that's really important to Revit to fully understand and employ is not the standard wall type, as in the solid wall, all the way down to the bottom of this, the curtain wall types. So one of the things that I might look to do is select this, and from my drop-down list, rather than brick 2 as my wall family, changing this to curtain wall 1. And weird stuff happens right out of the gate, right? So to understand what's going on with that and why that just flattened the wall down, we need to understand a little bit about how the curtain wall operates. So I'm going to hit cancel on that. And let's go to our walls and let's look at curtain walls. So there are two types of curtain walls that you're primarily going to use. Curtain wall 1, well, let's say one type, curtain wall 1. I'm going to show you the storefront wall, but I'm going to show it to you specifically with the point so that you don't use it, okay? This is one of the moments where Revit is going to take too much control over your design, and so this is one of those buttons to avoid. If you use it, you're just going to look like a slop artist, okay? So storefront, curtain wall 1. If I draw curtain wall 1, what it's going to give me is a great big glass panel as a wall. Nothing on it, nothing holding it up. It's just a monster-sized piece of glass. If I use the storefront tool, same thing. I'm going to draw out similar large piece of glass, but it's going to populate that with mullions. On the onset, this seems better. I have mullions. It looks more complete. However, this wall becomes really difficult to edit. It is decided where the mullions are placed, how they are placed, their patterns, so on and so forth, which means officially you have not designed that wall. You've picked it out of a catalog and shoved it into your design. Not something that I want you to do. Cool? So that's where that tool exists. Designers don't use this unless they're using it as a temporary placeholder. I'm hitting delete, okay? Here's the thing. You want to use curtain wall 1, not the storefront system, okay? So since this is a large piece of glass, it's also going to tell us why when I select this and change its type to curtain wall 1, that it straightens out. Glass, as a general rule, doesn't bend very well, okay? Now, I could go back, let's hit cancel. I could go back again and be the slop artist and change this to storefront, and it is going to break that down into a wall that actually is made up of a curvilinear kind of thing by straight pieces of glass, right? So that is how that works. But again, I didn't choose where those mullions were. Revit chose for me. So I'm not a fan of using that or teaching that method. To add mullions, to add some structure and pattern to this window, the tool is right here. Curtain grid and curtain mullions. Grid lines, essentially, I can go along the vertical edge and begin to apply a horizontal grid. Okay, so let's do 8 foot. And let's do another one 2 feet above that, and one more right here. Then if I go along the baseline, I can start roughly center. I can add and build up a relevant design pattern. I don't know why it's a relevant design pattern, but it feels good to me, right? With my curtain grid. Cool, so it looks something like this. No mullions on there yet, and oftentimes I see architectural students making this mistake. They're doing the grid thinking that they also have mullions, when in fact they don't. It does not render out very well, so you need to do step number 2, which is to add the mullions in. That is under the mullions button. I can add them in by a single grid line at a time, which is kind of annoying. I can do a grid line like that, which is even more annoying, or in one click I can do them all, which is typically what I choose to do. Now, the next thing that comes around from that is, what if I want to change the pattern? Like, what if I want this to interrupt the pattern and be one larger window? Really simple to do. I can come in and delete those mullions to break, and then I need to select this curtain grid, add and remove segments, click that. Same thing right here. I'm going to hit escape to drop that curtain grid, select that curtain grid line, add and remove segments, and remove that segment. And now I've got a solid window. So I can do that at any length to break up how that is happening. So applying that to our example here with the curve, I can select my curve. I can say curtain wall 1. Then I can come in. I'm going to say unjoin element. So this is saying this no longer really works edge to edge, right? So if I look at that in particular, I now have a great big opening hole in the building, which is always something that you have to work with. You know, how do I attach glazing? How do I attach a glass wall to a solid wall? Okay, we'll get to that later. For now, I want to go back to architecture and do a curtain grid. And as I begin to apply my curtain grid, so I'm looking for the center points along these walls, it's going to begin to give that a curvilinear shape based off of straight segments. Cool. Next, I can go here and here and here and here. Finally, mullions, all grids, blammo. And now I have a curtain wall panel built up. That guy for this edge. Now, design-wise, if I look at this in level 1, you can see that warning message that was being shown to me. That is not a good connection at all. So we need to build something for that. Again, that's getting a little bit further advanced into both Revit and your design thinking skills. We will cover both of those as the semester rolls along. For right now, getting to this point, the first pass at your geometry on your precedent study is completely adequate. You will be just fine with these little minor gaps and things that are going to show up as you're starting your process on modeling your precedent studies.